I don't know what's so funny. I actually counted down from 5.
You did the normal countdown, yeah.
I did the normal countdown, yeah.
Listeners, before every recording, Leslie will count down and then hit the countdown button, which produces a second countdown, which we find a really funny. We were just talking about our routines, and that's a really funny routine. But today we didn't do it. It's going to throw us off wildly. People are going to be like, "Hey, those Chat and Pitch boys, they were a little off the tracks today."
The funny thing is, what's supposed to be a 5-second countdown turns into an 8-second countdown, and that's why it's funny.
How like life.
Yeah. Remember Countdown? What happened? Is that still going?
I think so. Yeah. It's still going. And then they have the comedy one.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really Jimmy Carr.
I haven't really watched either of those in a long time.
Speaking of Jimmy Carr, his new podcast that he's hosting. Do we even touch that?
I don't think we should. Or should we?
Maybe when the bitterness subsides.
I think we need to have a word with Mr. Jimmy.
And the BBC.
He only went and got and stole our idea.
Yeah. For those people who've never heard our podcast before, the premise is basically the same as Jimmy Carr's new podcast.
Now,
except they just get a bunch of people who would be on Mock the Week if it was still a thing. How lazy as well from Netflix and BBC. Who should we get to host this? Should we think about it for more than 8 seconds? Oh no, just get Jimmy Carr. He hosts everything.
Do you honestly think that they stole our idea, or it just so happens to be out in the zeitgeist? Because our idea did exist before theirs.
Yeah, I know. It's you know what? It's more of a bitterness thing that, like, hey, we've been trying for years with this podcast where we pitch movie ideas to each other and we want to try and make it like a writer's room, and we pitch silly ideas and we try and make it funny. I would say most of the time we manage that, not all the time. And then
not every time.
Netflix and BBC, with all their money, just show up and make a podcast about pitching movie ideas. And I guess it just makes it a little bit harder.
Is it BBC or is it Netflix?
I think it's BBC and Netflix.
Oh, okay.
I know it's definitely Netflix because, the premise is linked into that. But
okay, sure.
And I'm not even saying I dislike the people involved. You know, he's had Ramesh Ranganathan and Phil Wang on the first 2 episodes. I think they're really funny. And, Jimmy Carr can be funny as well. It's not really my sort of thing, but I can understand why other people like him. It's more just like they stole our idea and we're coming for them.
So, do we watch their podcast or do we not watch their podcast?
Do we ignore it?
I'm kind of half tempted to check.
We're sitting here like they stole our idea. We're so bitter. Have you listened to an episode? Oh no.
Anyone who have seen their new podcast and are here for whatever reason, just know that we were here first. And on that note, here's the jingle. Hello again.
Hello.
Back to this wholly original podcast that has not been ripped off from anybody else other than our own brains.
Yeah, we ripped off our brains. Our brains are very angry with that.
Yeah, speaking of brains, there's quite a few brains in this movie that we're going to be talking about today.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's obvious to many that this wasn't the only movie that came out this weekend. However, unfortunately, I, out of the 2 of us, have only watched one of those movies.
Yeah, I think we've misled our audience there with you saying brains, because brains, who likes brains?
Zombies.
Zombies.
And scientists.
Yeah, I was going to say scientists and universities.
Morticians.
Yeah, zombies.
Oh
yeah, morticians. Yeah, they're so weird.
Do they like the brains, or is it just part of their job? Who knows?
I do wonder what's the difference between a mortician that's phoning it in and a mortician that really gets into it.
Yeah.
It's probably the one job where you want the person who's phoning it in. I don't want the mortician that's like, oh yes, the good. This one's hefty. Yeah.
There was this really morbid show on, was it BBC or Channel 4? I can't remember, where they were doing live autopsies.
Oh,
and
really?
there was this one.
That sounds like a Channel 4 thing.
Yeah, there was this guy who was just doing this live autopsy and just cutting into this brain with a saw. And it was a real person as well, but they were for educational purposes. And there's someone in the audience
and then the host, Paddy McGuinness, then cuts across to a panel of people, and then he asks them, "Which one would you like to date most?"
It cuts over to 20 women and be like, "Likey or no likey? The brain,
lifey or no lifey?" That's the show.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and the show was called Brain Me Out.
Chatting Pitch, an entirely original presentation by Matthew D. Smith. Go on. So what was the show?
Take me out. In colon. In parentheses, the brain.
Take me out, open brackets, as in kill me, and then take me out, open brackets.
In the point of view of the brain saying, take me out. Yeah. Of the skull.
So there's 3 take me out.
No, there was this one. Some guy was just doing autopsies for educational purposes, probably on Channel 4, and halfway through cutting someone's brain in half, someone just stood up in the audience and went, "Excuse me, but what's the purpose of this?" and they just thought like it was just gratuitous, which probably was. It probably was.
The scientist yelled, "What do you mean? What's the point of it? To cut the brain in half." Just carries on.
This saw has many points.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Did they have a response to that?
Or was that I think he just episode? Said. He said like it wasn't the final episode. I can't remember which episode it was. It was somewhere in on amongst all the episodes, but I think what the person who was asking the question was wondering is whether or not there was actually any educational purposes to his autopsy, or was it just for vanity?
Or if his autopsy, so he was on the table.
Yeah, he was cutting his own brain.
Opens his eyes. Hey, is there a point to this, or can I get off this table? You should stay right there. Shut up. I think the mic's caught it.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about brains.
We're not doing zombies.
We're not doing zombies this week, only because I haven't seen it. Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, I haven't seen it yet, but I would have seen it tonight when, we would have both seen it by then.
So then next week, Leslie hasn't seen it, but 2 days ago, he saw it.
That's right.
It's just how podcasting works, baby.
Instead, we... I'm not going to edit that. I'm just going to keep it. We both watched the same movie, which is a very different movie, completely on the opposite sides of the spectrum. It is not a very fast-running zombie movie. It is, in fact, a kid's movie.
That's how they run, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how the zombies run when they're phoning it in. Brains.
Yeah. Not getting paid enough for this.
Brains.
That's what I'd do if I was getting paid pennies.
You'd be a zombie, but you would just... You'd be the one. You'd be the one where they're like, "We're just going to leave him. We're not going to kill him.
That's right.
We're just going to leave him."
Have you seen... So Sam Raimi movies, they always have very entertaining extras in the background.
Okay.
If you ever focus in the background and watch it, they're just the most fascinating actors. And there was this one actress from, I think, the one Doctor Strange movie that he did direct. Okay. I think it was the second one.
Multiverse.
There's a scene with Benedict Cumberbatch at a funeral, I think.
Okay.
Or a wedding. It was either a wedding or a funeral at the beginning. I can't remember. He was sat on a chair. There were many benches behind him, but there was this one lady who was completely overacting, and she's like,
"Okay,
oh yeah." But
it's a nice church.
The camera doesn't cut at all, and you just see her full performance, and she's like, "Very good. This is a pretty good church." And for the life of me, I don't know why they kept it in.
Lots of pointing.
Yeah, but part of me kind of wonders whether or not Sam Raimi
just
enjoys. He enjoys that. He is almost like he does this thing where where directors have their signature thing, where they always do the same thing, like in every movie that's related to each other, like within his universe. So he always has the same car, like since the beginning. That he's got that car.
His big monster
I think
truck.
he just loves putting bad extras in his movies, or very funny overacting extras.
Although directors don't actually direct the extras. That's the funny thing.
Not?
Though.
There's an extra director.
I remember being an extra. I think technically, if you get directed by the director, you get paid more. So in an effort to keep costs down, directors just don't do it. I remember being in a movie where I was an extra, and me and someone else I knew, we like improvised a little background thing. Like, it was literally just a look, a reaction to something happening. Mm-hmm. But the director didn't direct us. It was the first AD who came over to us. So the assistant director, who's normally to do with like organizing things and very, very good at communicating as well. So he came over to us instead, so not the actual director. And he said, "Hey, could you do that again? But do it this way," and gave us some notes. So it's not actually the director that does it. So it's interesting that Sam Raimi consistently has. I wonder if he has the same team that he works with.
Maybe.
Does he have the same AD?
He has an extras director just behind him who doesn't get paid, and he just does the overacting.
To keep costs down, he looks like Sam Raimi, but with a long moustache and an inexplicable accent that comes from nowhere and yet everywhere.
I'm not Sam Raimi. I'm Baimi.
I'm Baimi. That's Baimi. He directs all the extras.
Oh, I heard. He's the infamous Baimi.
Everyone's Baimi.
That's what all the extras are saying to make it look like they're talking. Baimi.
Yeah. They're not doing, what was the classic one? Like watermelon.
Rhubarb.
Rhubarb.
I thought it was rhubarb.
Well, now we know what it is. It's Baimi.
Yeah.
Baimi.
Well, we know
there's a real Baimi church. Yeah.
We know what our pitch is going to be later on. Baimi, the biopic.
So what did we watch?
We watched. Is it Elio or Elio?
I think it's Elio because for reasons we'll talk about. But yes,
sure.
Elio. Pixar's Elio.
So, very much Steven Spielberg inspired, I would say. Yeah. Channeling that Steven Spielberg energy. Aliens.
A lot of
aliens aplenty. That's right. Hey,
one over there on the ceiling.
Elio phone home.
One over there by the door.
Not today. He wants to go away from home, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So let's set up the premise here. So we've got Pixar's latest outing. It's finally another cinematic release. They're no longer shoving them onto Disney Plus anymore.
Yes, thank goodness.
Thank goodness for that. And this one is a space adventure movie. It is based on a little boy who I believe is orphaned and is being taken care of by his aunt, who I do not remember the name. Do you remember the name of the aunt?
His aunt,
is it Elio?
Played by Zoe Saldana, is Aunt Olga.
Olga. Okay.
Yes.
So Elio and Olga. And there's a little bit of friction between these two characters. He obviously misses his parents, and the aunt is trying her best to accommodate young Elio.
Yeah. And it's quite real in that it sort of shows, it gives little glimpses that she has a stressful job, but also she's given up what would be an even more time-consuming and stressful role, a role that she's always wanted because she's looking after her nephew. So,
and where does she work? She works for space.
It's not like a fairy tale. She works for space.
I honestly don't remember. She works for, is it the space sector of the military or something?
I think so, yeah. Her job is essentially keeping track of all the bits of debris around the Earth.
Sure.
If it's going to hit a satellite and things like that.
And as a result, I think by proxy, Elio just kind of became obsessed with the idea of being abducted by aliens.
Yeah.
And to the point where
it opens with him going on the beach, and he's constantly trying different areas of beach, and he's writing a big mess. Aliens, I was going to say
me now,
aliens,
please.
Aliens take me, but that seems a bit rude. Take me.
But at one point, he does say, like, just do whatever, probe me, whatever.
Yeah. Probe me, take me home, whatever. But also, he's a bit odd, and he doesn't, because of his oddness, he doesn't really have a lot of friends. Also, he doesn't go to school either.
Yeah.
Constantly cutting class, as they say. Cutting class, but he's a classy kid trying to get aliens to abduct him. And then eventually that happens. I don't think I'll go any further in the plot, but it happens when he's mistaken for the leader of Earth.
Yes. So this is all within the trailer. Obviously, we're trying our hardest not to spoil anything. But the main premise is he does get abducted by aliens. And it's his dream come true because that's what he wanted to do. Because he just wants to be part of space. And he wants to be part of the aliens because he's so fascinated by them.
But really deep down, he just wants a friend.
Yeah, he really, really wants friends, and the only friends that he could think of were aliens, and he does it. But then he gets mistaken for the leader of Earth because they asked, take us to your leader, and he outright lies and says that he is the leader.
Yeah.
So they all believe him. And it's one of those movies where it's like, oh no, a lie has gone too far.
Yeah. Well, it's almost that it goes so far, and then they say, oh, we thought you're the leader of Earth, so we contacted you back, and he's sort of standing there as well. It's gone this far, so I kind of need to go with it. Otherwise, they're just going to send me packing.
Yeah. And then lots of series of events occur.
Brad Garrett shows up as a big, scary-looking alien dude who's trying to take over.
Brad Garrett. Oh, yes, Brad Garrett. Yes.
Ray. Yeah, that guy.
Ray Romano's nemesis.
Although there was a bit
I actually don't remember
where
what
the aliens are chanting, and it just reminded me of him as the blowfish in Finding Nemo, where they do the big chant. I can't remember how the chant goes in Finding Nemo.
Shark bait. Ooh, ha, ha. Is that the one?
Well, they have the big ceremony, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
there's that one just in the background.
What a great movie. I love Finding Nemo. Anyway, this was directed by a few people, actually.
Oh, yeah. When you look at the list of directors and writers, it's like, wow, okay. I'm surprised the movie is as coherent as it is.
I don't actually know the names of the directors, but I do know what they've done before.
Madeline Sharafian and Domi Shi?
Yes. So I think Domi was the director of Turning Red, which was the Red Panda Pixar movie that went straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And then the other director, he did what was the one before that? Elemental, I think.
Okay.
I think that's what he did. Or you know what? I actually did. No, Coco. That's it. He did Coco.
Oh, okay. I liked Coco.
Yeah, I did like Coco a lot as well. But the other one, the one that you mentioned at the beginning, was it Madeline or who did you say? Anyway, the first director was a storyboard artist, because I looked at all the credits yesterday and I just can't remember for the life of me what the names were. But yeah, it's you might think it's too many chefs in the kitchen, but they seem to make it work.
No, I think it works very well.
Works very well. Without going too far into the story, I would like to talk about my thoughts of the movie. And actually, you go first. Why don't you give me your thoughts? Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first bit is, as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of Spielberg in this. The fact that they've just taken two T's off the name Elliot and come up with their protagonist. But I like that it's not too heavy on that, and they're not just redoing E.T. There's a bit of Close Encounters as well. I really enjoyed. It was a little formulaic towards the end for me, but I did enjoy the about turn. I don't want to spoil too much that one of the characters makes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about, yeah.
And yeah, it made me a bit emotional. to be honest, watching it, because there's a lot of stuff in there that was a bit unexpected in terms of like father-son relationships that really hit me, because I've got a 4-year-old boy. So, and it seemed, for a movie that was about alien abduction and aliens that meet up and create like a federation of like-minded creatures out in interstellar space, it was a lot more realistic than certain movies that are around at the moment in terms of like depth of feeling. I think that was the main takeaway, really. Yeah, that the about turn. The only negative I can think of, but it's quite a big negative for me, is that the ending felt like a typical Disney ending. I would say this is Disney Pixar leaning heavily on the Disney compared to other Pixar efforts.
Sure.
The last...
See, when you told me this before I went into the movie, you said that it felt very much like a formulaic Disney ending.
Yes.
And when I watched it, it didn't clock in until after I finished watching it, because I was bawling my eyes out like towards the end.
Right.
So I couldn't quite really, I guess, think rationally at that point, because I was mostly trying to like hold it in. But then there is this one moment towards the end where it just got me in the feelings, as the kids say. You got me in my feelings.
My feelings.
Now, what do the kids actually say? I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not a kid.
Yeah.
You
know what?
Razzle that, my D. Razzle that, my G. That's what they say.
You know what's
do this with their hands.
Not so much. So what they get their braces and they. Not so much in what they say, but a lot of the stuff that the kids take in. Because I'm a junior school teacher, which I've mentioned in a few previous episodes. It's interesting with the advent of the internet, the stuff that they watch, where I'm like, come on, I watched that 20 years ago. Usually,
what are you talking about?
Usually each generation sort of has its own thing. And so if I referenced something from my generation, that most of the time the kids would be like, really? But with the advent of the internet, more and more now, it's sort of like the kids will mention something and I'll think, oh, okay, you find that funny as well. I found that funny 15, 20 years ago. I've heard a few kids singing the £1 Fish song. Remember the £1 Fish? Yeah.
I remember the £1 Fish song. That's a lot, 10 years ago?
Yeah, interesting that came up. With the ending for Elio, I would say...
you know £1 Fish? I found £1 Fish funnier 10 years ago.
I found it funnier when a pound was actually a pound.
No, it's more like £1.50 fish.
A pound would get you 2 dozen fish.
No, sorry, what you were talking about Elio.
Elio's ending. I'd say there's a ton of great stuff. The way that it goes is this amazing film, amazing. You get to maybe 30 minutes out from the ending, and you get 10 minutes of formulaic, and then you get 20 minutes of really, really fantastic stuff.
Okay.
So I can understand what you mean by bawling your eyes out at the ending. There's some really great stuff in there. There is that formulaic. I don't know what the word would be. The formulaic element that the film hinges on.
Yeah, sure.
It can only happen if this formulaic thing happens, and it's to do with a character making a decision that, frankly, is out of character. But because it's a Disney movie, we need the happy ending.
Mm-hmm. I think I know what you're talking about. We can talk about it in spoilers. But,
yeah, sure.
Here's the thing. I guess I'm ready to give my rating now, but I really enjoyed the movie. I do think it is not without its faults. However, if I'm being completely honest with you, there wasn't much that I could say that was a problem for me. I thought the animation was great. Thought the colors were very nice to look at. It's very bright and a lot of great lighting in the movie as well.
Okay.
Cinematography, it's just everything. I I think I've heard some people have problems with the designs of the characters. I didn't really think that was much of an issue. I mean, it's a kids' film at the end of the day.
I quite liked the Rock one, the communication.
I did like the Rock one,
moving his whole body.
Yeah, and just this flappy head.
Yeah.
Kind of reminded me of how South Park they animate Terrence and Phillip.
It is actually, yeah.
Hey guy, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
Except he's just a little rock monster. I found the humor to be pretty on point. I laughed at most of the jokes in there. I guess the only thing that I would say is like maybe the very, very ending, like maybe the last 5 minutes or so, or at least like the main character Elio makes a decision right at the end where I kind of thought I wouldn't have made that decision, but that was just me. And for that reason, I'm probably going to give it a chatting pit C, because
that's still pretty high.
I will say, not a lot of movies get me in the feels to the point where my eyes are not dry. And I was watching it with my partner, and she
said like a true robot. My eyes, they're not dry. What is happening?
Sparks start flying out my neck.
All of my circuits will be right back.
So yeah, I was definitely emotionally unstable towards the end of the movie, and my partner turned to me.
Emotionally unstable. He was standing up. He was standing up, listeners. He was throwing chairs.
My partner turned.
Jimmy Carr stole my idea.
No, that was more you. You were in the cinema halfway through, just thinking like, "Oh God!" Like, did you watch it with your son?
The only negative part of Elio was it didn't make me
when Jimmy Carr just yeah.
I did take my son. I took my 4-year-old, and there were actually bits where I thought, "Oh Jesus, he's going to be terrified." But he was. He got to the end of it, and he was like, "Yeah, I loved it."
There was a moment in there that was like an Alien reference, wasn't it?
Yes.
And that was one of the moments where I thought, "Oh, this is a bit terrifying for children," but it very quickly was a bait and switch, and it was no, but as I was saying, I was crying my eyes out towards one of the main emotional points of the ending of the movie, and then I just let off one of these, and my partner turned to me and said, "You crying?"
And you were like a true guy. You were like, "No, I farted and it's really sticky." You'll probably get it in a minute.
No, it's not me. It's the person in front of me. They're crying.
You're crying onto them. Look, see, they've got tears on them.
I just remember at that very moment, I looked around, and I wasn't the only one.
Okay.
The two people in front of me was a mother and son. They both looked at each other and cried and gave each other like a big hug.
Wow.
Because of that it's like a family moment, right? I looked over to the left of me, and the dad was wiping his tears.
Right.
And then I looked over to my right, and it was just my partner being like, "You bloody crying."
You loser. You absolute loser.
Anyway, I wasn't ashamed of it. I just said, like, look, these things get me, and it is what it is. And I really enjoyed the movie. What about you? What's your rating? What would you give it?
I would give it a solid chatting P. Yeah, solid chatting
P.
I really enjoyed it. I did feel emotional. I didn't cry like you did because I'm not a wimp. I'm a real man.
Oh my God!
I'm a real man who can do real tough things.
My co-host is a bully. Get me out of here.
I did cry, but I worked out today to calm it down, so it's okay.
I did cry, but I was dehydrated, so no tears came out.
Yeah, I was just making noises. My wife was like, "Everyone else is crying. What are you doing?"
Jimmy Carr stole my idea.
Why are you doing that bad Nixon impression? I don't know.
Shall we move on to spoilers, mate? Because I'd love to hear what you thought about the ending and why you thought it was
sure.
a problem. I want to see if it was the same problem for me as well.
Okay. I would say one other thing, leaning into the Disney classics as well. I don't know about if you felt this. The film felt very slight.
What do you mean by slight?
I didn't feel like there was a lot to it. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or a good thing, because some films these days, oh boy, it's 2.5 hours and there are 4 individual plot strands. It's just, you could cut 2 of those plot strands, it'd be fine. Some movies are bigger just because they want to be bigger, as opposed to they need to be bigger. Whereas
are you saying it wasn't big enough?
No,
like it needed to be more grander,
not so much in like tone or scope or anything. Well, maybe in scope.
Duration? Are you saying it's too short?
I just mean to explain the story. The story itself felt slight. There wasn't a lot going on. Again, I'm not saying that as a negative or a positive. I'm just saying it reminded me of those old classic Disney animations where it would be 70 minutes and the story got told and the story was lean and anything superfluous would have been cut because, this thing's got to be short. We've only got so much money, so much time, whatever.
Okay.
It wasn't.
I didn't have that much of a problem. I didn't have too much of a problem with the duration. I don't think
that's a problem. It reminded
an observation.
It reminded me of sticking on, Jungle Book because you got a spare hour. It wasn't.
Okay.
It wasn't this big 2.5 hour extravaganza that would be bloated.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what was the other kids movie you recently saw that was a little bit too long?
Oh, Lilo and Stitch. Lilo and Stitch was 20-30 minutes too long for me. And for the kids, I reckon. It definitely wasn't Baimi. It wasn't Baimi. We're going to have to employ a new part of our rating system, aren't we? Is it a full chatting pitch or is it
a full Baimi? I do want to talk about spoilers real quick.
Okay, go.
Can you tell me what the issue you had was with the ending, or at least like 30 minutes towards? You said it was a bit too. So it was too Disney-fied.
Yeah, it's been a few days since I've seen it, but the way that Brad Garrett's character, what's his name, Lord Grygon. Great names, by the way. Lord Grygon and his son Glordon. Which me and my son got in an argument about. Like he was asking me, what is the name of that alien? And I said, I think it was like Glordon or something. And
I thought it was Gordon. I thought it was just Gordon, wasn't it?
Yeah, just Gordon.
Yeah.
It's my brother Gary.
Yeah.
All right, Gary.
No, what was your issue?
Lord Grygon just seemed to go from hell-bent on destruction to being a lot more amenable.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the section where he finds out his son opens up to him and says, I don't want to be a warmongering conqueror like you. I'm not talking about that bit. That bit, that was the bit that got me emotionally. Again, didn't cry, not a wimp. You should cry. It's okay to cry. I'm going to make it clear that I'm joking. Because some people people online, but also some people in my life, I will tell a joke and they'll look at me like, no, I was joking. It's okay to cry. It's good to cry. Yeah. Have a good cry every now and then. People aren't. Have a good cry.
I think some people aren't as smart as you, and they can't understand the nuances of your dry wit.
Yeah, that's it. I'm too clever.
Your IQ is like way beyond their reach, and
I don't think
they'll never fully understand.
I don't think it's that because smart people still look at me the same way.
Yeah. Sure. Okay, no, go for it. So you said you thought that was too much of a.
I thought there was too much of an about turn from Lord Grygon. Yeah, too much of a tonal shift in terms of how he was approaching the Confederation of Aliens, whatever they called themselves. And I just thought, this is happening to facilitate a happy ending.
Okay.
This is not happening because it's what Grygon would have done. Which is a shame because it rubs up a lot with making him a little more than two-dimensional. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not like the fullest character I've ever seen on film. But the fact that he goes from this two-dimensional, I've got big guns and I take over places, I'm Genghis Khan in space, to hearing what his son says and accepting it.
Yeah.
But that rubs up against this about turn he makes, where I just thought this is just, oh, okay, we're in the third act now. That's
Okay,
what it felt like to me. Okay, the mechanics are taking us into the third act.
Sure. I didn't have much of a problem with that, and I think it was that moment that did get me when he did rip off his armor and shown his vulnerable self, because that was teased very earlier on that, or not very early on, like towards like the middle act, towards the end of the middle act, Glorgon reveals to Elio that, you know, those big I guess exoskeletons, you know, wasn't their true forms, and inside they're all soft and squishy. And like I knew at one point we were going to see that. How we were going to see that?
It's a fairly obvious, obvious to us because we're nearly middle-aged.
It's very obvious foreshadowing, you know. And when it got to that moment, I knew it was going to happen, and when it did happen, I personally found it quite satisfying, because I think I have, you know, I guess I have a relationship with my family who are somewhat traditional, and there is that that through line with these big slug people that they follow tradition, and the kid doesn't want to follow tradition, and I think I related a lot to that. So when I saw it happen, I was like, oh. Not saying like I'm being represented by like whatever, but I was able to draw. I'm represented. Finally, my slug people. So when I watched it, I didn't have that much of a problem, because I guess I could have related it with firsthand experience.
Right.
And I think that's what the director, or at least maybe one of the directors, probably drew inspiration from their experiences of having traditional family members or parents. So, you know, it was a very literal kind of like showing the vulnerability of just ripping the armor off and then being all like,
it's fairly obvious foreshadowing and a fairly obvious metaphor, but it's quite a good metaphor for the fact that it's also a movie designed for kids as well as adults.
But I do understand what your issue was, and I think maybe you would have preferred it to be a bit more nuanced as opposed to just like a complete 180 and just showing.
I didn't mind the fact that he did a 180 in terms of his son. I really got into that section.
Sure.
Where his son admits that he doesn't want to be a conqueror, and his dad already knew, really.
Yeah.
There's a section just before, I can't remember exactly what happens, but I just thought, oh, okay, the bad guy's done this because we need to get to the end of the third act.
Okay.
But the section where he's accepting his son for what he wants to do, I really enjoyed that. I would say it's a bit of an interesting shift in terms of the themes of the film, because the theme of the film starts off with friendship. And then the script almost abandons that element. It almost abandons that idea of friendship and then switches to this cross between parents accepting their children / the idea of masculinity, the idea of men being, again, fairly obvious metaphor, men being soft on the inside but having to show off this tough outside. Remember, didn't cry, I'm not a wimp. And the idea that you can open up and you can be your soft, squishy center, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because other people, and it's that realization that actually, other people feel the same way. They might not feel it at the same time as me, but they'll feel the same way. They'll go through their own version of this.
Yes.
And it's okay to literally open up. And that sometimes it's painful, because it's painful for him when he rips the suit off, because he's been in it for so long.
Yeah.
And that represents the fact that, it's if you bottle things up for a really super long time, then it becomes even harder to open up, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
So that's the part of the movie I took the most from, and I enjoyed the most. That bit about sort of parents and children, and
yeah. I've seen a lot of people say they keep saying this is not the best Pixar movie. And I don't know. I have a bit of a problem with that sentiment because everyone keeps saying they're comparing every other movie, but why can't they just review the movie as its own?
But that's the problem when we live in a time where everyone's like, "Hey, I'm going to rank them like S to E, or I'm going to do my top. I'm going to do my listicle."
Speaking of which, isn't that what we're going to do at some point?
Yeah, probably. I think we're top 10
sort of
top 10s. What's your favorite top 10? My favorite top 10 is where
speaking of brains,
sandwiches. Go on.
Were we talking about brains?
We were talking about brains.
No, we were talking about opening up. We're talking about opening up, and it's okay to open up. And speaking of opening up, let's open up our brains to the writer's room for the pitch section of the episode.
An alien movie, I guess, or a science fiction
alien movie.
Yeah.
About what was the name that we came up with for Sam Raimi?
Oh, Baimi.
Baimi.
Yeah,
isn't it? Or is it Baimi?
Baimi, sorry.
Baimi.
Sounds like a fish. What's that sort of fish that's really difficult to
catch? Somebody get hold of this Baimi.
Not like those other
fish.
He's
too gabby, too baby.
What's that fish that sounds like Baimi? Who cares?
I have no idea.
Nah.
Why don't you ask ChatGPT?
Tell us in the comments. Tell us in the comments section.
Tell us in the comment. No one's going to tell us anything.
No.
So Baimi, is that going to be our rating system or the name of this movie that we're about to pitch?
Maybe that could be. Oh, that could be the name of the alien.
Yeah.
Baimi.
Gambanian.
I'm Baimi from the Gambanians. Who live on Gambania.
Right. And what's the story here?
I think I just told you.
he's the extra in a movie, but he wants to be the lead.
Oh, so this is a universe where aliens are an accepted thing. Humans interact and they walk among us openly.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Openly and freely, but this alien wants to become a movie star.
Okay. Wants to become a movie star, and he wants to be the next big thing, but he's only being cast as extras.
Yeah.
Right? So you see him.
You gotta change your name. No one likes Baimi. You gotta call yourself Arnold Strong.
I think this should be in the format of like a mockumentary, where you see like at the beginning, you'd be like, "Hi, I'm Baimi. You may have seen me in many extras," and it keeps zooming in, and you can see he's like in the background of, or like the back of his head. Yeah. And he's like, "But I wanna make it big." And then his agent, see you, Baimi.
Yeah,
you're doing too many. You do too many of these roles that I'll get you the spotlight. This is a cigar, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Not like a bottle that he's drinking from. A banana, yeah. Is there a bit where he's going to say to camera, like, with full sincerity, you know, with all the movies I've been in, the box office receipts for all of my movies added together does equal $12 billion. And then you hear a voice off screen like, but you're just an extra in all of them. And he's like, 12 billion.
How much did you get paid?
And that could be where he starts off.
12.
He could be started off as
$12.
As a Gambanian who, that could be it. Yeah. He's a Gambanian who's deluding himself.
Right.
Because life hasn't turned out the way he wanted it to.
What does he look like? Because all I can think of is Glorgon from Elio. But maybe he's one of those grey aliens, you know, the one with the big eyes.
Oh yeah, because then his agent could be saying to him, "Well, you look the same. You look the same as every alien. You gotta make yourself stand out from the crowd, like that other alien, Gleeblorp. Gleeblorp the mighty." And it just cuts to like some praying mantis looking one who's like a really big. He's like a heartthrob, but then we lean into it because he does things that are not heartthrobby because he looks like a praying mantis, and he's like, "Come and see me in my next movie."
And people are like, "Oh,
TMZ are like another clip from Heartthrob, Glambooble the Mighty, or whatever he called him.
It is Mantis Boy Summer, everybody. Get your sexy mantises out." Yeah,
Mantis Boy Summer. That's it. Try out my new scent. I made it myself. His hands are always.
I got it. Pray.
Okay.
Prey by Mantis. So
yes. So is this guy the villain, or is he a nice? We need to have
be the anti-hero.
We need to have an interaction with the praying mantis fellow.
Yeah, maybe it could be. He is the antagonist of the movie to our main protagonist, big-headed alien. Baimi. Baimi, yeah. I think one of the reasons why he became an actor is because he has got a big head, and they always say the best actors and actresses have big heads. They
really?
Put up the screen, yeah.
I think that's just because the cameras are really close.
Well, naturally speaking, I'm sure
you saying
if you Google,
when I see George Clooney on the big screen, his head's actually that big?
Yeah. Why else do you think it can't stay straight on his slender body?
That's
too much weight.
That thing will affect the tides the way he shakes that.
No, it's a well-known thing that actors on screen
Thor is 30 feet tall.
Yeah, with a tiny body.
Is that really a thing though? That actors have slightly bigger heads?
Genuinely, if you Google actors with big heads, I'm sure that's just one of the criteria.
Did you mean actors?
You got a small head, you're out. You're not going to make it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
I might be wrong.
Oh no, wait. I meant talent, not big head.
Yeah. No, genuinely, that's something that I've heard.
Hey,
if there's any merit
this
to
guy
it,
should have been our next Avengers movie. Why?
He's got a big head.
He can't act, but he's got a big head. He's got a real Gambini about him.
But his agent is like, well, you know what, Gambini, you got a big head, but you got
a big head, but you haven't got big heart.
Yeah, that's it. God, I ruined my throat. I'm recovering from a cough.
Don't worry, I picked up the bit. Don't do the troll voice. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't doing the troll voice. I was trying to do the agent voice.
I thought his agent was the troll. It's pretty much.
Oh well, there we go.
They all come from Jersey.
Yeah. You ain't got your head needs to be bigger. And he puts a big wig on him. And he's like, really big disco. Old quiff.
Yeah.
Or disco, throw or whatever you want him.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to get to all these. He's trying to get these parts. You see, he's trying to get these parts. He can't get them. Yeah,
because he can't fit through the door.
Ultimately, he ends up getting a supporting role.
Okay.
With a movie starring none other than our boy Mantis.
Mantis the
and
Conqueror.
That's when the friction happens.
Okay.
That's when people start being like, you know what? I think Mantis might be out of the game.
That Mantis guy. He's
Gambami's getting it. Gambami.
Next big thing. Next big thing, and it like emphasizes his head.
Yeah. You see that montage of a bunch of newspapers.
Yeah. But then there's the fall that you have in these movies where the wig comes off, and everyone's like, "Oh, his head isn't as big as we thought it was. It's not real."
And by the end of the movie, you realize, it's not about how big your head is.
It's not the size of your head; it's the size of your heart.
The size of your heart. That's right. And that's when they realize.
I don't know.
Maybe they realize that they both have the same sized hearts.
Yeah, even though they're different species of alien. Yeah.
Mantises have famously small heads.
Yeah.
How he got a leading role in a rom-com, I have no idea.
Because he's got a big heart.
He's got a big heart.
What he could do is like really, it's this touching scene where he just rips his own heart out because that's his species. His species can do that. And he's like, that's right. See, look at this heart. And you still have the swelling music behind it.
Right.
The grey aliens like trying to back away. I think we've got
There's no love interest. It's just Mantis versus Baimi. Acting chops.
And if the studio
right,
wants, because I know we're trying to pitch to Walt Disney, because we decided to stop pitching to Don Simpson because he died. So now we came up with a great idea of trying to pitch to Walt Disney directly.
Okay.
Who's hearing all this in his cryogenic freezer?
He's technically still alive.
They gave him some like headphones.
Yeah. Does the brain still work in cryo?
When they
You're telling me.
That's the noise it makes when it opens.
We'll see in a few years if we see Baimi the mockumentary.
If we make it big,
presented by Disney.
If we make it big, you know that cryogenic freezers are more complicated than you first thought. But if Walt Disney wants us to stick in a love interest, we can just have Baimi. That could be a montage in it as well.
I'm Baimi. I'm Baimi.
Everyone's saying Baimi. It starts off as a question. Baimi.
Yeah.
Baimi. It's Big Head Summer. That's the next year. It's Big Head Summer. Get your big head boys.
It almost sounds a bit like Can't Pay Me.
We can just throw the Mantis's mum in or something.
Yeah.
So literally the very end of the movie, the Mantis's mum shows up, and then it just has soft focus and plays music, and then it cuts to the credits. There you go, love interest, if needed.
I don't know if it was intentional, but the name Baimi sounds awfully similar to Can't Pay Me. So
we've been chatting pitch.
Chatting Pitch has been brought to you by Leslie Way and Matthew D. Smith. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to listen to others and maybe even subscribe. You can follow us on the website, formerly known as Twitter.
Listen to us on Spotify or wherever else you listen to podcasts. Leslie and Matthew have their own side hustles as well. Feel free to check out Leslie's YouTube channel or Matthew's Medium blog. Links in the description. If you want anything else, we might have other links in the description if we think of anything interesting to add. Thank you for listening. I love you.